Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Monday, the 23rd of October. Good to have you aboard, part of the Believe Podcast Network, and presented as always by Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. If you're involved in an accident, you're dealing with a personal injury, you call Anidjar and Levine accident attorneys. You may be wondering what it's like to work with the best personal injury attorneys around. Well, Anidjar and Levine, they talk to the insurance company for you. They're going to help schedule all your appointments. They're going to send you frequent case updates so that you're up to speed. You know everything that's going on. They're going to answer all and every question you have. Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. Got a great show planned. We're going to have a great week. I'm happy to have you guys aboard starting the week with us, even though we are super disappointed about last night's Dolphin loss. Week 7 will close tonight with Monday Night Football, San Francisco and Minnesota. We have 2 Major League Baseball League Championship Series games. That includes a Texas Showdown, Game 7 tonight. And BetOnline is your #1 source for all your baseball wagering info. Up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, matchup breakdowns, everything you need to stay up to speed on both the League Championship Series all the way through the World Series. And of course, with the NFL and college football, the latest game odds, spreads, and totals, they're at your fingertips with BetOnline's real-time updates on stats, news, and odds. Head to the BetOnline website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Don't forget, use promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks everybody who listened to me yesterday on ESPN Radio. I hosted ESPN Radio Game Day from 1 to 4 p.m. with Herm Edwards. That was my first time doing that show. I've done primetime before. Primetime is on Sundays from 4 to 7 p.m. and Game Day is on from 1 to 4. And I'm doing it for the next 2 weeks as well, so 3 total weeks in a row. Usually Shay Cornett from SportsCenter, she hosts it, but she's off for the next few weeks. So I did it yesterday with Herm Edwards, and I think next week it's with both Mike Tannenbaum and Herm Edwards. So the easiest way to describe it, and I hope you tune in next week if you didn't catch yesterday, it's Red Zone on the radio. And as far as the shows that I've done so far for ESPN Radio, it was the most complicated, but probably the most fun, and at the same time being the most complicated, also the easiest, because it just flew. It's literally Red Zone on the radio. We're going from game to game to game to game, constant updates on what's going on. I got the Red Zone on in front of me on my TV. I got my iPad keeping track of all the scoreboards. I got my phone so I can look up the box scores and give real-time stats. I got my computer open so I could see the messages, and I could see the producer up in Bristol, their screen. There's so much going on, but that was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing it again next week, so I hope if you didn't catch me yesterday, you can listen next week. Actually, next week's tough. Like, yesterday was great because the Dolphin game's at night, so I do Game Day yesterday from 1 to 4, and then I'm done, sit back and relax, watch the 4 o'clock games, and then you got the main event, which is the Dolphins. Well, next week, I'm on during Dolphins-Patriots. Dolphins-Patriots is 1 o'clock, so I don't expect everybody to be listening then, all right? But the week after that, the Dolphins are in Germany, against the Chiefs. That'll be at 9:30 a.m. Get done watching that, and then hop on Game Day from 1 to 4. So you guys will definitely be able to listen to me then. I hope that you'll be joining me, and I appreciate everyone who hung out yesterday. That was really a lot of fun. Went to the Panther game on Saturday night. Made my debut at what is now called Amerant Bank Arena. Made my debut. Panthers and Canucks on Saturday night. My wife and I, we took my son Jordan, the 3 of us. He had a birthday weekend. And for just the second time ever, I sat in the upper deck. Now, I'd never been in the upper deck, period, at that arena, Amerant Bank Arena, until the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 4, when I went with my man Colin, founder and CEO of Sheets and Giggles. SheetsGiggles.com. Use promo code ZASLOW, 20% off your first order. And I was like, you know what? The same way that I sit, when my son and I go to Dolphin games, my older son, Corey, we love sitting front row, upper deck, like on the behind the goal. Front row, upper deck is money for the NFL. And so after sitting in the upper deck for the Stanley Cup Finals, and we were like 15 rows up, I was like, you know what? I'll bet front row, upper deck in this building for hockey is pretty money. So I bought 3 tickets for us. We went on Saturday night, sat front row in the upper deck on the corner of the chute one side. Those seats are money. I will do that every time. So look, the Ticket Ninja, it's about finding the good value, getting the good seats, but also finding the good value. And I'm telling you, I think we're going to go again tomorrow because very similar seats. Front row, upper deck at Amerant Bank Arena, like tomorrow night, for instance. Panthers and, is it Sharks tomorrow night? Yeah, Panthers and Sharks. Like $27 a ticket. Front row in the upper deck. So that's a hot tip for you right there. You don't even have to thank the Ticket Ninja. That's a freebie I just threw you. So I think we're going to go again tomorrow. Panthers lost 5-3 that game on Saturday night. But man, like, Panther tickets are expensive. And especially now because the whole lower level, they sold out of their entire season ticket inventory in the lower level. Doesn't mean lower level seats aren't available. They're always available. Secondary market. And the club always holds back a certain number of seats for individual game tickets. They don't sell every seat for season tickets. But the value is in that upper deck. First row, even second or third row, whatever it is. So I think we're probably going to go to a bunch of Panther games because I found the value again, even though Panthers are a hot ticket. Panthers, again, tomorrow night, they play Hurricanes. We'll get to that. We got the Major League Baseball doubleheader today, Game 6 and Game 7. So we obviously have to start things out here with your Miami Dolphins. All right, so had a lot to drink last night. Woke up pretty hungover. That did not help. You know, dealing with the Dolphins' loss. I was agitated last night, and I'm not so agitated this morning. I mean, I'm more disappointed because, you know, I wanted to wake up today getting ready to celebrate a Dolphin win with you guys. I don't lose sleep over the Dolphins anymore. That's one part of my fandom that I'm really proud of my growth. I'm proud of how I've evolved as a sports fan. And some of it has to do with, you know, getting older in age. I mean, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 42 years old. And I started to treat Dolphin games different a little less than 20 years ago. A little less than that. Like into my mid-20s. And part of it was because I didn't like how it was making me feel when they would lose. And the other part is, you know, they had so many down years that the emotion was beat out of me. Now, I'm way into it again. I became way into the Dolphins again really a few years ago, especially when my older son started to get into it. So it kind of helped me get my fandom back where I do get really excited during the games. All right. But I don't allow the losses to make me crazy anymore. And I'm really proud of the way that I've evolved as a Dolphin fan because if you go back in time, last night's game would have set my mood for the entire week. And who the fuck needs that? I'm going to have that game last night set my mood for the entire week? That's obnoxious. Who wants to live like that? Now, I know a lot of you guys listening right now, you are like that, and you're great fans. I'm just telling you, for me, I'm glad that I don't experience it like that anymore. And maybe you'll get to a place where you feel like that too one day, because it's so much easier not losing sleep over last night. Maybe being able to look at the big picture. And you know what? I used to be like that with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat were the last ones where I didn't allow a loss to have me lose sleep. I used to live and die with all 82 Heat games. And I remember on my first year on the Miami Heat broadcast, this is back in 2010, my first year on the broadcast, and I'm sitting at one of the pregame press conferences with the great Eric Reed, not the former 7-9 ticket midday host. I don't know what he's up to. Eric Reed, the all-time great television announcer for the Miami Heat. And I told about like how angry I was at the loss last night, you know? And he said to me, he gave me great advice, which was really pertinent for someone who is on the broadcast on every game, but also just from a general fan perspective as you're starting to get a little bit older. And he told me, he's like, you're not going to make it through the season if you're living and dying with all 82 games. You're just not going to make it emotionally. And he was right. I had to kind of let that go. Now, some losses will piss me off more than others, but regular season losses, gotta let it go. Can't wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats and I'm upset about a layup that Bam Adebayo missed. Can't do it anymore. That was great advice from Eric Reed. And so back to the Dolphins. I'm glad that I've evolved as a sports fan, as a Dolphin fan, in the way where, all right, I could be annoyed about it during the game, but once the game's over, I got to let that shit go. Regular season, if it's a postseason game, oh, come on, I'm going to be very upset. And I wasn't even that mad watching the game last night. You know, the Dolphins were in the game, obviously, especially early in the fourth quarter. They have the football down 7. They're driving the field. Tua threw the interception. Bad decision. I mean, Eagles defense did a terrific job. And that was really the ball game there. The Eagles, I think they had 2 of the tush pushes. I fucking hate that shit. I think they had 2 of the tush pushes on that drive, both of which may have been in their own negative territory. And it's an impossible play to stop. And I don't know what the NFL is going to do about it, because in theory, the NFL shouldn't do anything about it. Like, why is it not allowed? Why get rid of it? I think the problem, though, is when you don't allow the defense to push each other, why is the offense allowed to push each other? So either you get rid of the play, or you allow the defense to be able to push each other also. They're never going to allow the defense to also push each other. So the result is going to be that the offense cannot push each other either. And that will essentially get rid of that play. That's not going to be until next year, obviously at the earliest. But so the Dolphins had their chances, but I really thought the Dolphins got their ass kicked yesterday. I don't know any other way to say it. You go and look up the totals from yesterday's game, because otherwise you're just thinking to yourself, what do you mean they got their ass kicked? They were down by, game was tied late in the third quarter. They're down by 7 in the fourth quarter with the ball. Go look up the numbers yesterday. The Eagles, a 26-12 advantage in first downs. That's enormous, 26-12. Total plays. The Eagles ran 68 plays compared to the Dolphins 48, due in part because the Eagles had the ball for 37 minutes compared to the Dolphins 23. That's a dominant time of possession performance. Total yards. Eagles, 355 to just 244 for the Dolphins. Dolphins had under 200 yards passing, 199 yards passing, 45 yards rushing. The Dolphins are a great offensive team. Best offensive team in the league, right? They couldn't do anything yesterday. The Dolphins were in the red zone 1 time yesterday. What? And, of course, the penalty situation, which Dolphins clearly got the short end of the stick. But, they didn't get their ass kicked. No, they look at the numbers. They got their ass kicked. And because the Dolphins are a really good team, there were still moments where they were in the game. But they were down 17-3. They're down double digits in the first half. And they end up losing the game by double digits. A game that they never led. They got their ass kicked yesterday. The defense kept them in it, actually. Even though defense allowed 31 points, defense kept them in it. But this was a beatdown. And it was a beatdown, between their offensive line, their defensive line. They dominated the game down there. And yet the Dolphins defense was still able to make plays, which is a great sign moving forward. But they got beat down last night. I don't see it any other way. And here's the thing. You're allowed to be unhappy and think they played poor, and you're still a good fan of the team. There's not this rule where in order to be a top fan, you can't say they got their ass kicked last night. You're allowed to say they got beat up. You're allowed to say they got their ass kicked and still be considered a good fan. It doesn't make you any less of a fan. And I feel like some people have a hard time understanding that. That game ended last night. Dolphins got their ass kicked. They did. And here's the thing. And I don't want to hear about the penalties. But here's the thing. The Dolphins won the turnover battle. We know how important that is. They won the turnover battle. They had a defensive touchdown. And they still lost by 2 touchdowns. They got their ass kicked last night. I don't know any other way to say it. But again, that doesn't make it doesn't make you any less of a fan. You're allowed to be honest about it. And I don't want to hear about the penalties. I really don't. Because you had 2 calls that stood out, obviously. The face mask, Cedric Wilson Jr., that was awful. Sucks. You had the face mask they didn't call, and you had the hold where we were coming up the gut. Clearly we got held. The same kind of play that they called against us, just like the drive before that. Those were 2 penalties that clearly stood out. Yes, the Dolphins got called for 10, and apparently the Eagles played angelic football. That's tough to swallow. I get it. But the calls on the Dolphins, like the Dolphins committed those penalties. They were legit. 10 is way too many. You want to have a conversation about the officials not calling any on the Eagles? I'm with you. That part sucks. But those 10 penalties the Dolphins were called for, they were legit, and some were really stupid. The Wilkins roughing penalty was that soft, and you like the official. You don't get this all that often. What is it, Terry McCauley, whoever their officials? He comes on the screen. He's got no problem saying the officials got it wrong. I like that. You don't get every, head of the rules committee, whatever the rules analyst. You don't get that guy always openly disagree with the referees during the game. So I like that guy is willing to do that. But here's the thing. Was that a soft roughing penalty? Did Jalen Hurts likely flop? Yeah, but Christian Wilkins was 2 yards away from Jalen Hurts when he released the ball. Don't touch him. It's stupid. He barely touched him. Yeah, but you were 2 yards away when he threw the ball. That's a stupid play by Christian Wilkins. Really stupid play. And then you got the lining up offsides. What? That happened 3 times, I believe it was? And it was weird because one of them had ended up offsetting because they said that the Eagles were also offside, which they weren't. And the rules analyst said that he's not offside on the offense. He's allowed to do that. He's allowed to be there. And it may have even been the center's hand that was right next to the football. It was extra stupid. The officials did not have a good game. But we're lining up offside 3 separate times. What are we doing? And, I don't want to hear about the officiating. We sound like suckers when we're going into the new biggest game in years, which is what this team had yesterday, and you just want to complain about the officiating? Especially when there wasn't, a call on the final drive that took the game away from us or gave the game to them. The game ended when Tua threw, and look, he's going to throw interceptions sometimes. The game ended when Tua threw the interception early in the 4th quarter. Eagles got the ball back, methodically drove down the field. They picked up a couple 4th downs with the tush push, and they wind up scoring to win the game 31-17. That was your ball game. If you want to wake up today and you're complaining about the officials, we sound like suckers if we're doing that. We're so excited for the game yesterday. It's Sunday Night Football. We're going to get, our biggest regular season win in years, and we sound like suckers when we're just complaining about officiating today. I'm not going to do it. The Dolphins haven't beaten anyone good. They haven't. And we're going to complain about the officials right now? Especially when there wasn't, it wasn't a call at the very end of the game. Sound like a sucker if we're going to do that. And I'm not going to do it. But look, here's the thing. It doesn't change my opinion about where this team is going to be later in the season, especially on the defensive side. That's the positive we take from yesterday, right? It doesn't change my opinion about who this team is and where they're going. I feel like I know who this team is. But if you're on the outside looking in and you want to make a case that the Dolphins have only beaten shit teams and they've lost to the 2 good teams badly, lost to the two good teams that they've played, so they're phony. If I walk into a court of law and I try and make a case against that, I'm going to lose that case. That's the frustrating part about today. But for me, someone who's in it, a Dolphin fan, I'm watching this team, I'm watching these games every single week. I know who this team is. I know they're a really good team. But today's a great day for the haters. And the Dolphin fan has to eat that one. That's all there is to it. But it doesn't change my opinion about where this team is going to be later in the season, especially when they get some key pieces back really soon. I'll tell you about those pieces in a moment here. First, though, I want to remind everybody, if you're interested in getting the best sleep of your life, if you're tired of your current bed sheets, maybe the bed sheets that you have, they're too expensive. What if I told you that you could have the softest, coolest, most breathable sheets anywhere? What if I also told you if you use the promo code ZASLOW, you could get 20% off your first order at checkout? That's right, Sheets and Giggles. Go to sheetsgiggles.com. Get the best sleep of your life with Sheets and Giggles irresistibly soft eucalyptus sheets. Their sheets are not only soft, they're also breathable. You're going to sleep cool and comfortable all night long. You would have slept well even after that Dolphin loss yesterday if you have Sheets and Giggles. Go to sheetsgiggles.com. Use promo code ZASLOW. Get 20% off your first order at checkout. Use promo code ZASLOW. That helps me. It helps Sheets and Giggles. My man Colin, founder and CEO of Sheets and Giggles, he's making those sheets so they're environmentally friendly and you're also getting the best sleep of your life. Again, sheetsgiggles.com. Use promo code ZASLOW. Get 20% off your first order. And of course, how was I enjoying the game last night? I told you I woke up with a little bit of a hangover. How was I enjoying the game last night? Had myself a 6-pack of Johnny Cuba. You know what I'm talking about. Johnny Cuba, most delicious beer, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0. If you haven't tried a Johnny Cuba, I don't know what you're waiting for. Head to your local Presidente or Sedano's or Winn-Dixie, Fresco y Mas. Pick up a 6-pack of Johnny Cuba, European roots with a Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. Maybe that's how you want to sit back and enjoy Monday Night Football tonight with the official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0, Johnny Cuba. Remember, always drink responsibly, and don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. We'll get to our NFL rundown coming up. A lot of action from yesterday. But here's what softens the blow for the Dolphin fan. Once Buffalo lost in the early games yesterday, we're golden. Last night, yes, the Dolphins missed a major opportunity to go up 2 games in the division on Buffalo. But once the Bills lost yesterday afternoon, the reality is it became a bonus game last night. It's true. You wanted to take advantage of the bonus game, but that's what last night became. That was a bonus game. Especially because the loss for the Dolphins was on the road against an NFC team. It's not a divisional loss. It's not even a conference loss. And it's not even a home loss. So, reality, last night became a bonus. Like, I'm going to take the glass half full approach. You could say, that's why yesterday sucked, because we could have taken advantage. I would feel that way if the Dolphins lost to a shitty team yesterday. That would have been so shitty. Then it wouldn't feel like a bonus game. Then only something bad can wind up happening last night. But because they were at a really good Philadelphia team, the Bills losing, that became a bonus game. The Dolphins are still sitting really pretty. Now, they don't have the number 1 record in the AFC anymore. They could do something about that in a couple of weeks. All right, the next big opportunity for the Dolphins is in Germany. And okay, so you're now a game back of the best record. You want the best. Your number 1 goal has to be to win the division. But if you also want to think bigger picture, you want to get number 1 so that you get the bye and you get home field advantage 2 games. You can rectify that situation yourself because your next biggest game in years is in a couple weeks against that Kansas City team that now you're a game back. But Buffalo losing yesterday major blow softener. What's also important is this. While the Dolphins have not beaten any good teams yet, they're kicking the shit out of the bad teams. And we know this. Like we talked about it last week. We had John Kincaid from up in Philadelphia, 97.5 The Fanatic. And he told us, I didn't know it until he pointed it out earlier in the week. And by the way, if you miss any previous episodes, ZASLOW Show 2.0, I'd love you to go back and listen wherever you get your podcasts. You could also make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ZASLOW Show. I love you so much. Thank you. And the Dolphins are 5-24. Well, they're not 5-24. The Dolphins' 5 wins. The opponents coming into this week were a combined 5-24. Those opponents now, matter of fact, I'm going to have to do it off the top of my head. The Patriots won yesterday, so that's 6-24. Giants won 7-24. Panthers didn't play yesterday. Chiefs lost at 7-25. And am I forgetting one? I think I'm forgetting one more game. But anyway, something like 7-25 right now is the record of the Dolphins' combined opponents. But it was 5-24 going into this week. But here's the thing. So I'm looking at it from a positive perspective because the important part is, while the Dolphins have not beaten any good teams, they're kicking the shit out of the bad teams. And for instance, Buffalo, 3 losses now, which, I get it. You could be frustrated. How did we give up 48 points? We lost by 4 touchdowns. The Bills are 4-3. Yeah, that part's frustrating. But Buffalo has 3 losses now. 2 of them are embarrassing. The Jets and Patriots, both in the division, huge. The Jets loss is embarrassing because, number one, Jets are 500 right now. And it was the first game of the year when the Jets should have been shell-shocked after losing Aaron Rodgers. Bills lost. And they lose yesterday to the Patriots. Those 2 bad losses for Buffalo. Dolphins don't have any bad losses. If you're going to be a great team, you don't get tripped up by the terrible teams. The Bills have gotten tripped up. The Dolphins have not been tripped up. You always beat the bad teams. There's no shame, there's no embarrassment in losing at Buffalo and losing at Philadelphia. Those are not bad losses. But eventually, you need to win one of these big games. The problem just is, they've played 2 good teams this year, and they've lost by double figures in both of them. Like I told you, I go into a court of law, I argue the one side, Dolphin hater argues the other side that they haven't proven anything because they haven't beaten anyone good yet. Now, I'm going to lose that case every time. I don't have the evidence in front of me. They played 2 good teams. They've lost by double figures in both of them. There's no other way to spin that. I'm sorry. And today's a great day for the Dolphin haters. Because for anyone who thinks this team is Fugazi, only beating bad teams, for everyone who thinks they're not on the level of the big boys, today's your day. You're a big winner today. Dolphins played 1 really good team, lost by 4 touchdowns. Dolphins played another really good team, only scored a season low 17 points, only 10 of which were scored by the offense. Only 1 touchdown scored by the offense, lost by 2 touchdowns. Today's a great day for the haters. It's more ammunition that the Dolphins are Fugazi. So I made a couple of those points last night on Twitter, and I don't understand the pushback I was getting from the Dolphin fan. Like I said at the start of the show, it's okay to say they got their ass kicked. It's okay to come to that realization. Doesn't make you any less of a fan. You're still a good fan, I promise. No one's taking any of your fan credentials away. If you wake up this morning man, we got our ass kicked last night. It's okay. You're allowed to still be a Dolphin fan. But I don't understand the pushback I get when I say how they got their ass kicked. Think about it. The Dolphins won the turnover battle and had a defensive touchdown and still lost by double digits. What are we talking about here? And like I said, there's no shame in losing at Buffalo, losing at Philadelphia. Shame would be getting tripped up by the Panthers, by the Giants, one of these shitburger teams. There's no shame in losing at those two teams we're talking about. But they got beat up last night. And again, the positive, the defense allowed 31 points. Yes. But I think you're pleased overall with the defense. You're not pleased with the offense last night. You're pleased with the defense. Defense made a ton of plays. Kohu, and you know what? Good for Kader Kohu. Because, yes, AJ Brown's one of the best receivers in football. And for the most part yesterday, AJ Brown still did his thing. I mean, he had 10 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown. But I didn't feel like Kader Kohu was getting abused out there the way that Stephon Diggs abused him a few weeks ago. Kader Kohu made probably the biggest play in the game. He blitzes, gets a hand on the ball, right into the hands of Jerome Baker, runs it in for a touchdown, 17 all in the third quarter, back in the game. Monster play by the defense. Jalen Phillips beats Lane Johnson, who hasn't given up a sack literally in like 3 years. So Jalen Phillips looking like he's healthy after missing the last few games. Bradley Chubb got involved early in this one with the strip sack. Christian Wilkins had a very up and down game. He recovered that strip sack. He had a couple other big plays, but he also had stupid plays. Offsides, the roughing. But the defense is clearly headed in the right direction. Now, I saw this point made. I don't know. Did the Dolphins hold guys out? Like, are the Dolphins playing the long game? And you heard Mike McDaniel. We got to protect guys from themselves sometimes. Xavier Howard, he wanted to play. Connor Williams, they held out too. They obviously missed him. Eichenberg sucks balls. Everybody knows that. The Dolphins hold guys out. Are they playing the long game there? Maybe. Especially because it's a road game. It's an NFC opponent. Let's make sure we're okay. And we're 5-1. Did Buffalo losing earlier in the day play a part? Probably not. But did they hold some guys out? Err on the side of caution? Maybe. But I can only judge performance based on what's in front of me. Last night was a good game for all the Dolphin haters. All the Dolphin doubters. Here's the thing, okay? Beat New England next week, we all feel better. And that's going to be a New England team that feels good about themselves. We'll get to our NFL rundown in a moment. Beat a New England team that feels good about themselves. And while the Dolphins kind of kicked their ass earlier in the year, it was only a 7-point win. Beat New England this weekend, we all feel better. Just sucks to have to sit and stew over this all week. And, like I said, the next opportunity to shut up the doubters. Dolphins win next week against New England. That's not going to shut up the doubters. What will shut up the doubters is the next big opportunity, which is in 2 weeks, to beat a top team in Germany, Kansas City Chiefs, and take back your fate as far as the top of the AFC is concerned. Have to eventually beat a good team. Next opportunity is in 2 weeks. So, I think the Dolphins got their ass kicked last night. Doesn't change my opinion of how I feel about this team moving forward. If anything, I feel better about this team moving forward because of how the defense is coming along and because they're going to get Xavier Howard back probably next weekend and they're going to add Jalen Ramsey. It's not getting Jalen Ramsey back. They are adding Jalen Ramsey. We've never had it. So you could be pissed about last night. You could say they got their ass kicked and also still feel good going forward, which I do.